Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Backstage. This is a special edition of Backstage, and our guest is John Phillips. That's a name that is known throughout the marching arts community, throughout music education community. John has spent 30 plus years in this incredible profession, and he's still teaching yet now. He's our Canadian friend. He taught at the University of Toronto. He taught at York University. He taught at his alma mater, right? Western Ontario University. He's just been around and he knows what's going on. He started so young too. He's spent the last, I think, 20 years as the administrator for the Drum Corps International Judges. All right. And in 2015, he was inducted into the DCI Hall of Fame. That is truly an honor. And one of the other things I think is so cool that he's done, check this out. He was the director of curriculum for the government of Ontario's Ministry of Educators. Wow, big deal, yeah? Above all, he's just an incredible human being. And he's one that is always looking out for the welfare of the people around him. And he has committed his entire life to making things better for all of us who are involved in music education. He's in the middle of a hurricane right now too. Yeah, so I hope he's anchored. John, thank you for being with us. Tell us what is going on in your part of the world, my friend.
It was an interesting 24 hours. We had Elsa's procession through Florida. And at one moment, it was actually a hurricane. It was, the weather people get so excited, Tim, was like, is it a hurricane? Is it a tropical storm? And, they're all ginned up on trying to find some exciting place to stand in the wind and the puddles and so on. So, yeah, I managed to survive. Sometimes life brings us these surprises, and this was one of them, not unlike the pandemic we've just been through.
Absolutely. Give us, I hit the highlights of your career. Tell us a little bit more. Get down into it. What's the foundation here? How'd you get into this whole activity?
Well, I don't want to flog the metaphor too much, but, unexpected circumstances. And going right back to my very first year in teaching, uh, I was so excited. I came out of the Faculty of Education down in London, Ontario, at the University of Western Ontario, and I had my first job in a high school. I was teaching the band and conducting several groups, and it was really exciting. The day after our final concert, the superintendent caught me in the hallway, the superintendent of that school district, and said, "Hey, I've got some bad news for you. You're not going to be teaching here next year." So, that was like, okay, well, what do we do now? I didn't have a plan B. And I have to say, I feel really blessed because throughout my career, I've had people who were mentors and leaders that kind of looked out for me and always seemed to find something new and exciting for me to explore. A lot of our friends, they get settled in at a school and they're there for their entire career or the majority of their career and making a huge difference, of course, to the students, the community, the school. But for me, I've been around the block and been to a lot of different experiences in education and music education. So, I look at that first, I guess, challenge that I faced as being an opportunity. And I found my way through to several different positions, becoming a department head, teaching at an art school, opening a brand new school, brand new high school, which is really exciting, getting to buy all those instruments, the smell of the fresh plastic as you put together those music stands and all that stuff. It was pretty cool. So, and you said I had a career in education. I'm still in the game here, Tim. I'm still doing some teaching. I'm at Florida Gulf Coast University down here in Fort Myers, and just having a blast.
But that's a lot to get done at 27. I think you're 27 years old now. So,
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled that you're one of our educational clinicians. I mean, that's puts you at the head of the class. You've got a special project coming up, and that's kind of why we had this backstage interview. Tell us about it.
Well, like you said, I've been the judge administrator since 2000, but going back in my experience in drum corps, I started when I was 10 years old, and I still have some friends that I talk to from those good old days. And it's great because it's made a huge impact on my life. It's what got me started in music and in music education. It really was my inspiration. In college, I even, because of my drum corps experience, well, I was an undergraduate. I taught the University of Western Ontario Marching Mustang Band, and I wrote their drill and music. And I was still an undergraduate, and I was doing all of that. And at that same time, I started to get into judging drum corps in the local communities up in Ontario. And we had a judge training one fall, or one spring, I should say, and a gentleman by the name of Donald Angelica. I think you know Don. You remember him very
Of
well. He
course.
was very good at recruiting talent in this
Oh,
new thing that was happening called Drum Corps International. And it's going to be the 50th anniversary next summer. So we're really looking forward to that. And Don was another one of those people that was a mentor. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you got to do this." And so he came to this clinic, and that very summer, I ended up judging the championships for DCI. I mean, I was a college student. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but somehow I was convinced and convincing enough, I guess, to have them fooled that I knew what I was talking about. Anyway, the rest is history, and let's fast forward to today. One of the things that we do annually with our judges, Tim, is have a little workshop training session to get them ready for the season.
right,
Well, DCI didn't have anything last summer. They were mothballed,
right.
as were a number of pageantry organizations. Some of the marching band associations didn't have any events, and the indoor stuff didn't have two seasons of events. So, it's been a bit of a drought that way. So this summer, DCI is going to have a celebration in Indianapolis in August. It's
Mhm.
not going to be competitive though. And so we don't really have that formal judge training that we would normally do. So while we were thinking about some things we could do in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium, my colleagues and I came up with an idea. Why don't we let the world in on what we do when we are judging? And we've formulated a plan for an event known as the World Judging Symposium. And our good friends at conn-selmer are helping us to present this, and we're really grateful to them for doing that. And we're pretty excited about what this is all going to be taking place in August.
Who else involved with it? Who's the frontline people with you, John?
Well, the key team in terms of development is our good friend Nola Jones, formerly with the Division of Education at conn-selmer, and the artistic coordinator and director of competition for Drum Corps International, Lee Carlson. So the three of us have been spearheading this program and putting the curriculum together. And we've enlisted the help of our judge administration team. It's people on the music side, people on the visual side. And we've also brought into the mix some people from the other pageantry arts organizations, those in the indoor world as well as in the
Huh?
band world. So we've got a very comprehensive program, but it's not complex, it's not complicated. It's meant to appeal to anyone interested in learning more about what goes on behind the scenes when judges are making their determinations.
Okay, I'm going to posture myself, John, as I'm a high school band director. And, I'm going like, well, should I do this or not? Because the people who watch backstage, for the most part, 90% of them are band directors. And so what would be the value for me to give up that time and jump in?
That's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. For all of you who are band directors and live in some form of a competitive or evaluative world, this is an opportunity not to be missed because we're going to cover everything from what judges look and listen for, how they arrive at their scoring and placements, what it is they are saying in the commentary, and how to use those comments to help support your next steps in your teaching and to support student achievement. We've got some focus sessions on things like what we call general effect, and they're designed to help directors understand ways to make their shows even more engaging and an audience appeal. We've got a terrific panel of experts on percussion who are going to identify some of those key components, and especially the electronics and amplification stuff and how that gets rolled into the consideration of evaluation. And we've talked about band directors. But this is a perfect fit for future music educators or
Mm.
anyone interested in learning more about even how to become a judge. And we've got special guests, as I said, from the Scholastic Band world on hand to help provide some input in that area as well.
Um, I mean, this is great because I think a lot of times, and help me out with this, that the people are putting together their show and they're getting all the help, and the compass may not be set for the outcome that they want when they go to the various competitions and so forth. Is that fair?
Yeah, let me borrow a statement or a couple from someone that we both know very well, we know the writings of, and that's Covey. One of his habits of highly successful people is begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And if you're competing, I mean, you've got an end goal, whatever that is. Hopefully, it's not win at all costs, because that's not a really healthy competitive environment. But
Right.
I think if you're using competition and you're using the goals of striving for excellence and working together to achieve the best you can, I think that's something that understanding what the judges are doing and how they're doing it just might help you to get to whatever your competitive goals are.
I mean, this is not an issue, but it's always a discussion about competition. Are we doing this to win, or are we doing this to get better?
Yeah.
Right. And it seems like number two is more important than number one. And you and your colleagues will give me a whole toolbox full of things that I could use and share with the students. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to cover things where you'll have a better understanding of when somebody makes a comment, or why this one might be a little better than this one, or this might be valued in a little bit more positive way than something like this. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it by providing actual examples. We're going to have judges down on the field. They're going to watch, we're going to use the drum course. We're using the drum course
Right.
because they're going to be happening this summer. And we
Right.
want to make it a kind of an engaging experience for everybody who tunes in. So we're going to have people right down at field level, and they're going to talk about what the group is doing, and not so much is it good, bad, or indifferent, but more about like how they would value that and what kinds of things they're looking and listening for while the students are performing. And I think that's what's pretty exciting about this thing.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna focus on the why, not just the what and the how. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And we've been headed in that direction for a little while now. Um, the content is very important. The context, as you've often spoken, is equally, if not more important. So we're looking to kind of give everybody a kind of 360-degree view of this thing.
But when you said that you're going to be down on the field while the groups are performing, you're going to be integrated into it. Yes.
Yeah, not in the old way where they used to run around and stay away from the drum line, who's moving 100 miles an hour. But, we're going to have them on the sidelines. It won't be during the performances in Lucas Oil Field. We will see some of that from the press box, and that's why we've nicknamed this the view from the press box. But some of the segments we're doing are going to be at field level while groups are rehearsing in the weeks leading up to this event.
Okay. So I'm going to get brass, woodwinds, color guard, percussion, breaking down in all those different parts. If I'm part of this, yes.
Yes, you will. We're going to have to take the woodwinds out. DCI tried to vote those in a couple of years ago. That didn't fly. But, I don't want you to get anybody all riled up here by saying woodwinds. But the context of music and visual is certainly going to be addressed. We've got a really neat session in the visual area with our good friend Jeff Young, and he's been doing some great stuff for the marching arts community for conn-selmer this summer.
Yeah.
And Jeff's doing one talking about, is it marching or is it movement? It's not the traditional marching. When you watch these kids in the bands and the drum corps and the indoor pageantry arts, it's just a whole nother way. I mean, I don't know about you, Tim, but when I started, it was pretty straight line kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I know I physically couldn't do what these kids are doing. It's
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah. They're running and playing at the same time better than most people can sit down and play. Let's go back to the woodwind thing, because I think this is interesting that a lot of people go, well, it's not banned, but I mean, it's the same. it's the same scaffolding, it's the same blueprint. You can pull right over to your woodwinds. Yes.
Absolutely. You know, most of our DCI judges judge for all of the state organizations across the country, the Bands of America, of course, in the fall. And they bring their expertise of being a DCI judge. I mean, they really are highly sought after because they live in this really competitive world in the summer. And then they put on their educator hats as
Yeah.
well. I mean, they do that while they're working with the drum corps. But,
Yeah.
you know, DCI is a whole nother world. It's highly charged, competitive environment. But they take those skills that they use in the summer and apply them to that educational context and try to encourage and provide input to the directors, input to the students that's going to help them all grow and be better.
Okay, I'm convinced. I'm a director, or I'm a college student who's going to go into the profession. I'm convinced. What do I do next? Help me. What's the next move for me now?
Well, registration is actually very simple. Uh, if you visit the Drum Corps International website, it's dci.org. You can find a link on there. There's a press release that's come out, and there's some information there. You'll see it's called A View from the Press Box. And you can find out the information on where to register right there. As well, conn-selmer has a marching arts community Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook and you just search on Facebook for marching arts community or marching arts educators, you'll see the promo stuff that conn-selmer's put together listed on there. And we're really grateful to our friends at conn-selmer, the Division of Education, Tim, that you oversee, for helping us out with this. One of the final things I want to say about that is that anyone interested in registering, we've got an early bird discount. It's half price right now until July 23rd.
Mm, take advantage of that for sure. And how long is this going to last? I come in at this time. How much time am I going to invest?
Yeah, so we're looking at Thursday, August 12th and Friday, August 13th
Right.
from 1 till 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to be broadcasting live from Lucas Oil Stadium. So we're going to have an opening and closing segment each day that'll be live. We'll see some action from the field and hear from some of the drum corps performing there. And we'll have some very special guests in each of those days during those live segments. And then over those 4 hours, we've got a bunch of content that's going to cover an array of topics. You've already mentioned about the color guard and the percussion and not woodwind specifically, but the brass and all of that part. But we're also going to do some sessions on how to become a judge, what is required. So we've
Ah,
got a very specific session there. Our good friend Gary Markham from Bands of America, he's the chief judge. He's my counterpart there. He's
mhm.
joining us for that. He's going to talk a little bit about how it's involved in their world in becoming a judge.
Okay, let's jump out of this for a second and just look philosophically. If you were starting your career, right, you're 2 years into it, and you know about this, and you have a hint of what you know now that you didn't know then. Tell me, should I do it or not?
Well, if your gig involves having to be involved in some form of competition, marching wise, I think you can't lose on this because we're going to take you to the end point and we're going to help you understand the processes and the protocols that are in place that judges are using to get you to that end point. So I think for new directors, this is very important. And for future music educators, if you're taking those marching band techniques classes, I know I'm going to encourage my students at FGCU to get involved in this and to partake. And we do have a student discount, by the way. It's only $25 for students for both days, all 8 hours of content. And I think it's a pretty good deal. Not only what you'll get from the content, but this thing will stream for another 30 days. So let's say
Oh.
that there's a fan who's going to be in the audience live at Lucas Oil in August on the 12th and 13th, and they don't want to give up their seat to come in this. They can still go back and look at it for the next 30 days after the broadcast has taken place.
Well, it's a chance to look under the hood because let's be honest, if you're not part of it, you stand back and you go, oh, that's the Taj Mahal. I'll never get there. And to me, it's the bridge is really wide open if you want to walk over it, and you can't lose. You're bringing back so much to your students. That makes sense.
I totally have to agree with you. You know, at the end of the day, we want to improve the environment for our students. We want to give them a rich educational experience. And you know, some of the things you talked about, making it a healthy competitive environment, I think is really important to understand it from the inside out. So it's a win-win in terms of what the students will benefit from in the end, at the end of the day. And even your high school students, if this is something that they're
Yeah.
interested in, we encourage them to join us. It's not going to be too lofty. We're not getting overly technical. We want to make it appealing and open to everyone, the parents of the kids who are in the
Yeah.
marching bands. This is of interest to them, and we've had a number of them register already. So we're pretty excited. We've got an eclectic group, a very diverse group of presenters, and a diverse audience, and we're trying to make this appealing to everybody.
That's great. As friend to friend, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and I know you're working with young college people who are headed into the profession, and I think it's a fresh start for a lot of people as we're coming around the bend. What advice, John, do you have for everybody as they go back into the game?
You know, it's difficult not to sound cliche when we're talking about coming out the other side of these
Right,
past 18 months.
right.
Um, First of all, the teachers, I've heard you say this, and I just want to echo your thoughts because I agree 100%. The teachers who persevered through all of this are our heroes.
Yes.
They've somehow found a way to keep music alive in their classrooms, whether they're virtual or part-time in a room or half the class or rotating schedules or whatever it is they've done. It's truly amazing. And they have found resilience and ingenuity and innovation in ways that we could never have imagined before. Who would have thought we would be doing this, right? I think one of the things that I would say is that I believe there's a place for the marching arts. I believe there's a place for what kids do. You know, those many hours of rehearsal in hot weather and windstorms and rainstorms and all of that. And you know, when you think of the things that this is just a few of the things, Tim, and you can add to them if you want. But you know, there's when they're out there working together in their marching band, there's collaboration, teamwork, sharing.
Right.
There's a commitment to excellence. They're working towards common goals. They're building positive relationships. I
Yes.
mean, that's what's really important. And so for teachers, if you're wondering if it's worth it all, I'd say yes, it is.
Yes.
You know, Tim, you've often said that the band is and marching band or choir or orchestra, these are the biggest teams at the school, right?
Yes.
And they're inclusive. I mean, we've seen this even more come to the foreground over this past little while, but in the past decades. We, of course, build leadership, respect others. I think the one thing about this is a physical benefit of getting
Mm.
out and moving around. You know, we've been tethered to these
Yeah.
computers. And by the way, I still want you to be tethered for 2 days in August, the 12th and 13th, for our seminar. But, you know, get them off the seats and get them out of the computers and onto the field and get moving because we know that there's those physical benefits that kids will get from this. And I just think all of the lessons we've learned during this crazy time are going to go a long way to support our students' achievement, students' success, but most importantly, the student well-being. And that's why we're in this business together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a huge amen and echoed a lot of times. Certainly the habits they learn in our case in band are the same habits that are you can put on top of everything in life that will make them a success. And for all of you watching this, I'm not sure you'll ever get another opportunity to see the who's who of this activity all together in one place at one time, uh, just lifting the top of the treasure chest and saying, here, you can take as much as you possibly can, you want, and my suspect is, John, that it's not going to be a one-time thing. People are going to come back and go, oh, what's the second step? So my dearest friend, thank you for giving us your time in the middle of the storm, no less. And to all of you, if John Phillips says it, it's worth listening to. Even more, it's worth doing. So we hope to see you all there. And thanks again, John. Till next time.
Thank you,
Strike
my
up the
friend.
band. Bye-bye.
Cheers.